Today, I welcome you to a African documentary as we look at some of the most traumatizing massacres that happened in Kenya due to politics that led many people to shed blood and also lose their lives, as many were left nursing wounds of losing their loved ones. And due to this, I shall go back in time in the year 2007 and 2008 to start with the Kiambaa massacre that involved the current president of the nation, President William Ruto. And this is a case that led William Ruto to be named in the ICC, the International Criminal Court, on a case against humanity. The Kiambaa massacre. It's a story that left many with holes to nurse of losing their loved ones and also losing some parts of their body. A week after a mob torched a church and killed 30 people in the worst single attack of Kenya's post-election violence, families still found the bodies of their loved ones thrown in the fields. Corpses piled up in mortuaries in Eldoret, and columns of smoke rose from outlying villages looted and burned in continuing attacks by gangs of youth. 2 police officers lifted the head of legs of one of the victims, who gave a story in regards to what happened. Youths rampaged in the Rift Valley's Kiambaa village on January 1st, attacked the Kikuyu tribe of President Mwai Kibaki, then who was declared winner of the December 27th poll that critics say was rigged. The mob shot dozens in a church, blocked the door with mattresses and set the church on fire. Around 30 people burned to death, while the attackers chased others into the surrounding fields, hacking at them with machetes. The official death toll from more than weeks of clashes in nearly 500 people lost their lives back then in the Rift Valley region. Thousands of Kikuyu had fled the ethnic-based attacks, and more than 250,000 people were displaced nationwide. The Kikuyu were arrested for their perceived struggle on the economy and politics, a feeling exhibited by the electoral outcome. Many took shelter in churches and police stations around Eldoret, the main city in the fertile Rift Valley, about 300 kilometers northwest of Nairobi. Aid agencies rushed food, plastic sheeting, and other supplies to thousands forced from their homes. The former presidents of Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania, and Botswana visited thousands of refugees at hastily constructed camp in Eldoret days later and promised to work for peace. At the town's morgue, Robert Ruto, 22, and with a piece of cloth wrapped around his nose and mouth, waiting to retrieve his brother's body. He was cut up with a panga, and he said, "I don't know why they targeted him. He's not a Kikuyu, it was just a mob wanting to kill." Whose Kalenjin Kingsmen were behind many of the attacks against Kikuyu, and this is a case that also lives in the hearts of many Kenyans. The Kiambaa massacre is a story that will remain in the hearts of many. The mob planned and executed an attack on the Kikuyus that then were based in the Rift Valley region, and up to now, many have never found a place to settle since they live as IDPs. That was a story in regards to the Kiambaa massacre of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Apart from the Kiambaa massacre, I shall take you back in time to the Molo massacre, where the current deputy president Rigathi Gachagua then was a DO. The Molo massacre happened in the year 1992. The major outbreak was in 1992 in the Molo clashes in the Rift Valley region, which left 5,000 people dead and another 75,000 displaced. The conflict was primarily between Kalenjin and Kikuyu communities, with the land ownership cited as one of the key reasons for the conflict. Nothing raises so much fear and apprehension in Kenya as the spectre of fresh ethnic conflicts, similar to those that rocked the country in the build-up to the 1992 multi-party general elections and after. The wave of the inter-ethnic conflicts in the Rift Valley, Nyanza, Western and some parts of the coastal provinces went down in Kenyan's history as the worst since independence. Like the Luya and the Mijikenda coastal Bantus, the Kalenjin are a collection of small ethnic groups: Kipsigis, Nandi, Sabaot, Tugen, Elgeyo, Marakwet, and Pokot, amalgamated into one ethnic identity largely for political mobilization purposes. The Kalenjin are cultivators and sedentary stock raisers, occupying the highly west central districts of Rift Valley province. They make up about 11% of Kenya's population. The Kalenjin were greatly favored for recruitment into government during the 24-year rule of President Moi himself as a Kalenjin. They remain steadfast supporters of the former ruling party KANU. However, that was severely divided by 2006, with the former President Moi promoting one faction led by Nicholas Biwott and fellow Kalenjin William Ruto supporting another. Many Kalenjin supporters remain loyal to their greater benefactor, former President Moi, but his influence appeared to be a slow decline. President Jomo Kenyatta, father of the incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta, was accused of sidelining the Luos, in particular Jaramogi Oginga, father of current opposition leader Raila Odinga, in favor of Moi, who succeeded him in 1978 as the second president of Kenya. During his period in office until 2002, Moi was accused of perpetuating the politics of divide and rule. His presidency was also marked by tribal animosities, though regional conflict among tribes was still existent. It was not until the advent of multi-party politics in 1992 when it really became evident. The reintroduction of multi-party politics in Kenya in the early 1990s had a number of far-reaching consequences, one of which was the eruption of ethnic clashes in Western Rift Valley, Nyanza and Coastal Province. This was partially a fulfillment of President Moi's early prediction that a return of his country to a multi-party system would result in an outbreak of tribal violence that would destroy the nation. Major parties were also divided along tribal lines. For example, the Forum for the Restoration Democracy for Kenya was associated with the Luya tribe, the Democratic Party with the Kikuyu, the Labour Democratic Party with the Luo, while the Kalenjin tribe supported KANU. The violent hotspots in the Rift Valley, like Burnt Forest, Molo, and Nusupukia, are old fault lines where a complex mix of anti-Kikuyu feeling, land hunger, poverty, and government insensitivity had created a veritable tinderbox, which exploded whenever politicians gave the go-ahead and provided the necessary logistics and financial support. In an official statement to Parliament in 1992, 6 months after the clashes broke out, Vice President Professor George Saitoti announced that the government would provide food and other relief supplies amounting to Kenya shillings 10 million, which then was $125,000 to the displaced clashes victim. This amount of money was inadequate to resettle and compensate the thousands of victims who had been rendered homeless and without property. Now, this is a story that also lingers in minds of many. Looking at it, as a result of the clashes in Molo, over 25 primary schools in Molo South, catering for over 16,500 people, did not reopen for the new term because of the insecurity. The standard 8 pupils due to sit for their KCPE exam fled their homes in 1993 because of insecurity caused by the violence. However, during and after the clashes, there had been a crisis in terms of identity and culture, and especially for the offsprings of the ethnic group that fought each other. Several families had broken down, and the children of mixed families were at crossings in terms of ethnic and cultural identity. Some even forced to leave for their paternal ethnic sides, while the others lived on the maternal side, depending on where the pressure was most. The clashes led to the drop in milk production, particularly in Rift Valley, which is one of the largest milk production zones in Kenya. Although there was no reliable statistics to illustrate the drop, the figures of milk production in Molo is indicatively of these falling trends led by the ethnic clashes. For instance, it was reported in a local newspaper that in Molo area the milk supply had dropped from 75,000 liters per month to only 29,000 liters per month. That was reported by Daily Nation on 19th June 1993. The fear of renewed clashes in Molo and burnt forest, among other parts previously affected by the menace, was a very sensitive subject, which created panic within government circles and the public. In April 1996, during Easter Sunday, Bishop Raphael Dingi Mwana and Zeki of Nakuru Catholic Diocese, while delivering a sermon in church, talked of possibility of witnessing fresh clashes in Molo area. He claimed that the local people had reported to him that bands of marauding youths were sighted regrouping in the forests of Molo. That is a story in regards to the Molo clashes, which are believed to have been spearheaded by the Moi regime, then also involving the current Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who was the DO. Apart from the Molo crashes, on the third we look at Madira massacre, which left 29 people dead. This was orchestrated by the group called Mungiki, which is an outlawed sect in Kenya. Also, it is said that the Mungiki is now regrouping again to come back into action due to the pressure from the government and also due to the high rising standards of living in Kenya. That's it in regards to the three most recent massacres that happened in Kenya, leaving wounds that will never heal. But we believe with time, many will recover from those wounds. For now, I urge you to subscribe to FM African Documentary for more of these stories.